This is where the revelation from House of the Dragon suddenly casts the Game of Thrones finale in a new light. If a dragonfire cremation is the traditional Targaryen funeral rite, then Drogon's actions suddenly make perfect sense. Drogon, the last of Daenerys' 3 dragons, was not simply flying aimlessly with his mother's body. He was likely taking her to a location of significance. Perhaps Dragonstone, the ancestral seat of House Targaryen, or even to Valyria, the homeland of their ancestors before the Doom, to perform this sacred Targaryen funeral ritual. There's a beautiful symmetry to this interpretation. Throughout the series, Daenerys frequently refers to her dragons as her children. In the end, her last remaining child would be the one to give her the traditional funeral of her house, returning the mother of dragons to fire, from which her dragons were born. This explanation resolves what had seemed like a plot hole or unfinished thread. Rather than being a loose end, Drogon's departure with Daenerys' body was the beginning of a funeral journey, one that viewers couldn't fully appreciate until House of the Dragon revealed this aspect of Targaryen culture. If Drogon's actions are interpreted through this new cultural lens, the symbolism becomes even richer. By melting the Iron Throne before taking Daenerys' body, Drogon was not just throwing a tantrum or somehow understanding the metaphorical role the throne played in his mother's downfall. He was beginning the funeral ritual right there in the throne room. The Iron Throne, forged by dragonfire under Aegon the Conqueror, was unmade by dragonfire upon the death of potentially the last Targaryen ruler. There's a poetic circularity to Drogon's action. The throne created by the Targaryen dynasty's rise is destroyed at what appears to be its end. And if Drogon indeed gave Daenerys a traditional Targaryen funeral, there's an added layer of tragic irony. Throughout her entire life, Daenerys attempted to reclaim her family's legacy and traditions, yet she was largely disconnected from those traditions since she was raised in exile. In death, she finally received the traditional farewell of her ancestors, a custom she likely never knew existed. This connection between House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones is so satisfying because it doesn't feel forced or like a retcon. The Targaryen funeral custom revealed in House of the Dragon fits perfectly within the established world and its internal logic. Furthermore, it aligns with the notion that dragons are connected to their riders. Throughout both shows, the audience witnessed the profound bond dragons share with their riders. They can sense their riders' emotions, respond to their commands, sometimes even unspoken ones, and mourn when their riders die. Drogon's behavior at Daenerys' death has always suggested a level of understanding beyond mere animal instincts. He recognized that the Iron Throne, the symbol of power his mother had pursued relentlessly, had somehow contributed to her downfall. By destroying it, and then carefully taking her body, he wasn't acting just out of rage, but with purpose. If that purpose was to give his mother a proper Targaryen funeral, then his actions become not just emotionally powerful, but culturally significant within the story. An interesting question to consider is whether this connection was intentional from the beginning. Did the writers of Game of Thrones always intend for Drogon to take Daenerys to cremate her body according to Targaryen tradition? Given the rushed nature of Game of Thrones' final season and the many plot threads that were undeniably left dangling, it's tempting to assume this is merely a happy accident. However, George R.R. Martin has been involved in the development of both shows, and it's not inconceivable that this particular piece of world-building was something he had already established in his notes or discussions with the production teams. Whether intentional or not, the connection works beautifully and gives fans a satisfying explanation for a question that had been left open. Beyond just filling in a plot hole, this connection between the two shows adds emotional depth to Daenerys' final scene. Her death was one of the most emotionally charged moments in television history, but understanding what likely happened after Drogon flew away with her body adds a new layer of meaning. There's something deeply moving about Drogon, the last dragon, performing an ancient ritual that connects back to a time when